A very warm welcome to you, and thank you so much for joining our Homeopathy 24/7 podcast. We are going to be speaking to an array of international guests who will share their knowledge and experiences of homeopathy with you. We will discuss all types of subjects such as remedies, symptoms, and stories of health. No matter where you are with your homeopathic journey, we aim to inspire you on your quest to natural health and living. The podcast is brought to you by Mary Greensmith, the founder of Homeopathy 24/7, which is a global platform connecting you with a homeopath wherever you are in the world, 24 hours a day. So let's get started with today's chat. Please welcome Mary Greensmith.
Hello, thank you for joining us today. It's lovely to see you all, and I'm really pleased to welcome Anjum Rahmatulla. Am I saying your name right, Anjum?
Much, yeah, Rahmatullah, but that's very
nearly there. I'm getting better. Today, I thought we could talk about homeopathy, the terms that we use in homeopathy, because of course we use all this language, and because we're talking about it all of the time between ourselves, we forget sometimes that it's homeopathic language, don't we? So it might just be useful for people for us to go through some of the words that we use and talk a little bit about where they come from or why we use them, what we mean by them. Shall we start with homeopathy?
Absolutely. I agree with you, Mary. It's something that I come across on Facebook a lot. And very recently, someone asked a question like, what exactly do you mean by feeling better and worse? So it's a timely reminder that what we take for granted is not necessarily what people understand.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And of course, because we're using these words all of the time, we forget that they're not everyday language for everybody else. And sometimes we use them and we actually forget the origins of them and the philosophy of homeopathy behind them as well. So always useful to go through. But of course, homeopathy itself is made up of similar or like, which of course is what homeopathy is all about, isn't it?
Yeah, I know. So if you break down the term, you'll need to make sure that I've got this right, Mary.
Okay.
Is the similar or the same, and you're suffering?
Disease?
Or is it the other way around?
Yeah. I think so. So pathos, and obviously Greek words, is suffering or disease. You know, it doesn't convert directly. So of course, homeopathy, what we're talking about is like heals like. So anything that can produce these symptoms can also have a catalytic effect on the body to help it heal. So that's why we're asking for so much detail about how you speak about the symptom, how you experience the symptom. And what we're looking for is, if you experience it that way, then this remedy might be useful.
Yes, and I mean, there are lots of examples of like treating, like coffee is one very well-known example. The onion is a very common example that people use. When you cut an onion, sometimes your eyes stream or your nose can stream. That would remind you of symptoms of hay fever. And so you might be able to use a remedy made from the onion to treat symptoms of hay fever.
So people are always surprised, aren't they, when we give them coffee, if they've got a really busy mind and they can't sleep. Well, why are you giving me coffee?
What a substance can cause can also you can also use that substance to cure, and that's where the like treating like aspect comes in, and it's absolutely fundamental to the way homeopathy works. And so we have substances from the plant kingdom, from the animal kingdom, mineral kingdom, and all. Those are the three main areas where we get our remedies from. And a lot of substances are very similar in terms of how they react in terms on a person. So we need to be able to look at how it affects that person in great detail in order to get the closest possible match.
Anjum, let's talk a moment about classical homeopathy, because most of the homeopaths, especially on our team in Homeopathy 24/7, are all classically trained. Can you explain what exactly do we mean by classically trained, classical homeopathy?
Well, I'm not sure there is one meaning to it, but I'll tell you what it means to me.
Yes.
Because I consider myself a classical homeopath. What that means to me is that I prescribe one remedy at a time. And I'm talking constitutional remedies here. And you then wait and see how that person is affected by the remedy. I tend not to use additional remedies at the same time as using that one remedy. You also give a minimum dose, so you give just enough of a stimulus through the remedy that will activate a change in the person, and then you wait to see where that change goes, how far it goes, how deep it goes, and when it stops working, so that you can assess whether it's going in the right direction. I think for me, those are the two fundamental aspects of classical homeopathy: single dose and single remedy.
Okay. And then, of course, obviously, we want to just discuss quickly the different types of homeopathic training, because although most homeopaths begin their training with classical homeopathy, that's what a lot of the schools are teaching, they then might go on and do additional practical homeopathy. So the difference they're calling it is more practical homeopathy, which is then using more than one remedy at one time as well. I think also this might be a really good time to actually say the difference between other people who prescribe homeopathy that aren't homeopaths. So for instance, naturopaths are taught some homeopathy, but instead of having a 4-year program on the whole of homeopathy, it is just a 6-month section where they're included on everything else that they do. So I think they are more likely to incorporate a lot more practical homeopathy than perhaps we would on our long classical training. But of course, in this day and age, a lot of homeopaths go on and do many different types of prescribing and add that to their toolkit to cope with what we're being faced with today, isn't it? Because of course, as people have more and more medicines, then there might be different aspects that we need to consider with detoxing and different protocols as well.
Yeah, sure. So detoxing is one aspect of homeopathy, and I would say that to me comes under what we would call isopathic medicine, where you use say a toxin that seems to have affected your health, but you use it homeopathically because it is made into a homeopathic remedy, and then you can take it that way, and that can help to ease the symptoms of whatever toxin it was that you were exposed to. So detoxing, I think, works in that way. There are other ways of using isopathy.
Yes, yeah, we have lots of different methods, don't we? And of course, the difference then with isopathy as compared to classical homeopathy is it's not using like helps like, it's using same helps same. So it's taking the actual substance. For instance, we might also use cat fur to help with a cat allergy. So there are many different ways that we can use that, aren't there?
Yeah, allergies is one, vaccine damage is another, hormonal treatments that might not work very well, that's another one. I mean, it's a very, very long list.
Yes, yes,
So
indeed.
we do have access to an enormous number of remedies that are made from things that might be regarded as being toxic to the human body.
Yes, I think at the last count there are over 5,000 remedies that we generally use, aren't there? And then there are a
It's
lot
closer to 8,000, but who
more.
knows?
That's all
Several
right. It just keeps on growing, keeps on growing. Let's talk about complementary medicine as well, as opposed to alternative medicine, because I think that's really important, isn't it?
Yes, I mean, we only talk about homeopathy in our Facebook groups for reasons that we all know, but I think most homeopaths acknowledge that homeopathy is one system of medicine that is part of a group of medicines that affect what we call our vital force, our energy, and if one can find a way of reaching that energy and moving that energy in a direction that is beneficial for health, then to me that is complementary, really. And there are different ways of doing it.
Okay. So you brought up vital force there as well, but what I quite often say is complementary as opposed to alternative is that homeopathy works while you're taking normal mainstream medicine as well. So you don't have to give up everything that you're doing just in order to take homeopathy at that time. You can use it alongside what you're doing. And because a lot of people are nervous about that, aren't they?
And understandably, for example, asthma. So if when I've been seeing people with asthma or with a skin condition who are also asthmatic, they will be on inhalers. And
Yes.
I don't ask them to come off inhalers because that's not my way, and it's not something that I can do. So they will continue with their medication. It could be any other medication as well, which if they're having on a regular basis, then they must continue that. Whether they choose then to discontinue it or taper it down is something for the person to decide. But if you are on medication, you have to be careful about what you do in terms of, whether you want to stop it or not. And you don't have to stop it. Sometimes you cannot stop it because it is life-giving.
Yes.
Homeopathy can help with building your immunity, with making you feel better, healthier in lots of different ways without necessarily.
Yeah, I always think it's really important for people when they start having something new like homeopathy to make sure that they have regular visits back to their normal doctor in order to be tested to see whether they still need the same amount of medicine, because obviously things like blood pressure tablets, things that are bringing their blood pressure down, if now as far as I can tell, that and this is to do with a vital force again, that when the homeopathy is working with what we have right now. So if the blood pressure is good right now with tablets, that's what's happening, and the remedies aren't going to affect that in any way. But I think it's just good practice for patients to be going back and having those regular tests.
Yes, I agree with you. I think because you need to be sure, you need to know in yourself that you are doing well, you're on the right path, and that different aspects of your health are also doing well. And you don't necessarily know when your blood pressure goes high. Some people will know that, other people may not be aware of it. So you do need to check it out if it is an issue that can cause you problems.
Yeah. Let's go on and talk about vital force, because we've mentioned that a couple of times, haven't we? What do we mean by vital force?
That's a great question. So for me, it's an invisible energy that runs through us. It gives us life. And when it goes, we have gone on to another world. It is an energy that can be affected by other energetic substances such as homeopathy. Homeopathy is energetic medicine, and it helps to kind of like the feeling of massaging the vital force in gently to go in a different direction and to become stronger so that it makes us be the best that we can be at any given moment in time.
That's a lovely description. I really like that idea of gently massaging our energy. And of course, that takes us on, doesn't it, to what you mentioned there, homeopathy being an energetic medicine. So what do we mean by that?
So what do I mean by energetic medicine? I suppose I would say that our remedies that we use are energetic over a certain potency. So the process of making homeopathic remedy involves dilution as well as vigorous shaking, what we call succussion. After a certain point of dilution and succussion, there are no visible molecules left if we were to look at the remedy under a microscope. So there is nothing there, nothing, quote unquote. But the more we dilute and the more we succuss, we know that the remedies are becoming stronger in terms of their strength and in what they can do to a person. So that is because we're working on an energetic level. It's not being measured by molecular structure or by however it might be measured scientifically. We are using a very different way of measuring that energy. And I guess that is what I would be looking at and thinking about.
Yeah, and it just ties in with that vital force, doesn't it? And that energy as well. We're affecting that energy and working with that. And I understand that at the moment there is a lot of scientific studies going on about the fact that matter is not solid. So I'm very certain that before very long there will be a name for this process and this energetic being, if you like, because so just to go through, because obviously dilution and succussion are really big homeopathic words. What we're doing is first of all we're crushing a solid object, a plant or a stone or a mineral, whatever it may be, until it's able to be diluted, and then we keep on diluting and succushing. So this agitation is part of the process. And as we think about gas molecules as well, get faster and faster the more space they have. And on the same sort of principle, homeopathy gets more potent with the more space that it has. So we talk about that quite a lot, don't we?
Yeah. The dilution is just if people are not aware. So if it was a plant that you're making into a homeopathic remedy, you'd stew it like a herbal stew that herbalists would do, a mixture of water and alcohol. And then the subsequent dilutions would involve both, again, a mixture of water and alcohol in different measures.
And the alcohol is used really just to keep the remedy, isn't it, for have a better shelf life. And of course it does have an amazing shelf life, doesn't it? If we keep it out of sunlight, it still works 20, 30, 40 years later.
Absolutely. It's amazing.
Don't you just love homeopathy? Let's talk about approving, because sometimes we talk about proving and that's a word that a lot of people don't understand, and then they're thinking about aggravation and proving as well. So in order to try a remedy, in order to test a remedy, when it's made, when we've got, okay, we're going to try this remedy and see what it's going to be good for. Obviously with normal medicines, they would then try it for a particular disease and see what happens. With homeopathy, we don't do that, do we?
No. So the proving, first of all, is always done with healthy volunteers, and they've got to be human beings. No dogs or cats or any animal is involved in this. So you are given, if I was a volunteer to do a proving, I would be given the homeopathic remedy. I wouldn't be told what it is, so it would be a double-blind kind of trial, or very similar to that. And then I would take the remedy in my mouth, as one takes a remedy, and then we would wait and see what the effect of that is on the physical level, but also on the emotional and the mental level. So there are three specific areas that we're looking at what the effect of any given remedy will have on a person. And this process can take a few weeks. All the symptoms are annotated, they're written down, and then when the time comes to collate all this information together, that must be quite a tricky process, because you have to go through every individual who's done the proving, what the effects for them have been, and try and see if there's a pattern there. But we have all this very, very detailed information that is put together in Materia Medicus, which is what we then access in order to find what a remedy can do, what it can help with. And so this is what approving is. It's a German word.
Okay. And so it's just fascinating, isn't it? Because, of course, we've got all of this information written down. And when somebody is part of approving, they're going to be asked every single question about what they're thinking, what they're feeling, what they're dreaming, what sensations they have in the body, and what changes are taking place. And that goes on, as you say, every day for weeks and weeks, as they take more of the remedy. So how does that alter from an aggravation?
So what I've just described is when we are collating information for something that's new, a new remedy. What is an aggravation? An aggravation is when somebody has taken a remedy for a specific reason, whether it's for a disease or illness or a state of mind, doesn't matter. But you've taken it therapeutically. You then find that, I'm just trying to think of an example. If you're somebody who's come with a headache, and you've had lots of headaches and you want to be treated for the headaches, you might find that after taking the remedy, your headaches might come back once or twice with a little bit more frequent, either more frequent, or they come back and you feel quite bad with them. And then that goes away, and then you find that the headaches are actually getting better. This doesn't happen with everyone. It just happens with certain people. We don't know why it happens. But it could be that the remedy is leading to an enhanced reaction before you actually feel the opposite, which is an amelioration of those particular symptoms. So actually it's a phrase that we use in aggravation before an amelioration. And for most people, that is regarded as a good sign.
Yes, absolutely. Because, of course, the remedy is asking the body to kick back, react to this. And if you're quite sensitive, it does react to that first before it's able to make a change in the way that it is reacting. So we're asking the body to react, and sometimes it does react with a flare before it can change the way that it's going to continue reacting from there. So, as you say, we would usually think, oh, we know we've got the right remedy then. Maybe if you're a really sensitive person, and especially if you've got skin symptoms and something, then we may be looking at diluting the substance or doing something so that you're less likely to have an aggravation, because of course, you know, our whole thing is about helping you feel better. We don't want anybody to feel worse. And while we're on that subject, quite often people might find that an old symptom returns.
I find that so interesting because I've actually experienced it myself quite recently, and it was a bit of a scare, but I knew that I'd had a homeopathic remedy in a high potency about 2 weeks before. And then I had lots of different symptoms that came back, and they were all familiar. Nothing was new. And first I thought, oh, why am I getting this? And then something else happened, and then something else happened. And I thought, I think that this is a reaction to the remedy that I'm having. So, and of course, that was the case. And 4 weeks after I'd had the remedy, they just disappeared, you know, into thin air, and I didn't feel them at all. So you can get, return of old symptoms is another a phrase that is used a lot by homeopaths, and this can also be regarded as a good thing, as long as it is quite quick and that it goes away. And again, I would say that in my experience, almost certainly every time it's happened to any of my patients, it has gone away. I don't know of anyone where it did
and it's almost as if the body needs to pull up the symptom because it wasn't dealt with properly at the time. So it needs to pull up and then learn how to correct that. And so the symptom goes away and you won't see it again.
Yeah, I also think that we retain a memory in our body. I don't think that what we had before ever goes away. And so it doesn't need to show itself, but with a homeopathic remedy that's working on the energetic level, there is something about the remedy that is saying, okay, I'm going in there and I need to know if, you know, I'm working in the right way. And it calls up on things that are memories, and it just brings them up temporarily before they can go back down again. And we need to be able to make sense of it. And in homeopathy, we do make sense of it because it is a good sign that something.
Yes, absolutely. And we just want to be aware of what our body's doing. And that's what I love about homeopathy, because not only do you learn about wonderful, wonderful substances, but you also learn so much more about your body, don't you? And about how it's healing and about what it can do. So it for me, that opportunity just to learn more about your symptoms, what your symptoms mean and how to interpret them, all comes up with homeopathy, doesn't it?
Yeah, which kind of reminds me of Herring's law of cure, and that's something that we've referred to. And I was thinking about that, and I don't see it very often, but I did see it once on my own daughter, which is why I've never ever forgotten it. She had some remedy when she was 6 years old. She's now 30, and she literally from the top, she started. I can't remember exactly what it was, but she started having some symptoms, started at the top and then it started moving down sequentially. And I could see it moving and it went down from the top to the bottom. And I just thought, that's unbelievable. That's Herring's cure from the to the bottom, from the inside out. Order of appearance. So that's a really interesting.
It's amazing when you see it, isn't it? Yeah, I think we'll have to come back another time and do about the philosophy and more about the philosophy and the organon. So the book of rules, really, about how homeopathy is prescribed, because it is the one thing that is very, very organized, isn't it?
Well, it's fundamental. I don't know any homeopath who has not read the organon or been made to read it in great detail.
Yes.
And it's obviously been translated into English, but it's originally in German, and it's not easy reading.
It's not easy reading, but it's lovely to go back to it and realize that everything we say for a reason, don't we? And it's sort of drilled in that the way that homeopathy works, the way that our body works, it's got everything incorporated in that. So I think we'll do another session just with the organon and take some of those elements from it. But let's do a couple of things now, because there are a couple of other things that people are always asking about. Constitutional remedies, I think, is very important for us to just discuss, and how that differs from other remedies, and because of course it's a different way of prescribing, or it's the main way of prescribing. So a constitutional remedy, what is it?
So let's start with us as human beings, and we're all different. In fact, we're unique. So when we are ill, we are also unique in terms of how we present with our illness. And it doesn't matter whether it's a headache or whether it's arthritis or whether it's asthma. Each person will show their unique experience of that particular condition. So that is what we as homeopaths are looking for, because the uniqueness of the individual gives us a clue to the closest possible match of a remedy to that person. Now, we are doing it differently from an acute remedy. An acute remedy is one that is given for the snapshot of the here and now. A constitutional remedy is looking at history. It's going back in time. It's going back to birth, your childhood, your adolescence, and it's trying to pick up patterns of how you have reacted to events, how your body has reacted in circumstances. And that pattern gives us many, many clues to a remedy selection. Now, there might be an argument about, there is the constitutional remedy, the simillimum. I think, given that homeopathy is treating like with like, and we're really looking at similars, there are loads of similars that can be used for any one person constitutionally. So there is, for most people, there is no one constitutional remedy. I wish there was, but maybe that's not a good wish to have, because it would make our own lives very difficult.
Yes.
But the remedies that we prescribe constitutionally, based on the history of the person, based on what they might have inherited, based on their reactions to the environment, and so on, those are remedies that will help to build up your inner resistance, your core, your vital force, your immunity. You can call it whatever you like. And it makes us stronger, and it makes us healthier, and more able to resist the pressures that are coming from outside. So that, to me, is what constitutional treatment is. It is to make the person stronger in themselves, physically, mentally, emotionally.
Brilliant, brilliant. And that ties up today really nicely, doesn't it, really? Because it's such a big thing, and we can never stop learning more about it, because again, it's teaching us more about ourselves all of the time, isn't it?
Oh, it's a journey of a lifetime, really. I think for homeopaths, and for those who want to take it further, there is always something more to.
Yes, yes, indeed. Well, let's do this again, Anjum, because we've got lots of other things that we can be talking about, haven't we? But thank you very much for coming on today and opening up the terms and words that we use in homeopathy.
Yeah, well, I really hope that it makes a difference to people's understanding of homeopathy. I don't like using jargon, and I try not to use jargon when I'm working with people, but there are times when you can't avoid it. So I really hope that this helps. But thank you as well. It was great talking to you, Mary.
Speak to you soon. Thank you very much, Anjum, for coming and having this discussion just about homeopathy. It's been great to talk to you. Next week, I will be having a look at some of the courses that we are producing as homeopaths in the Homeopathy 24/7 team. So it'll be really interesting for those of you who want to learn a little bit more about homeopathy, what we've got now, what we've got coming up, and of course, your own ideas of what you would like to see us producing more of. So look forward to speaking to you next week. If you have enjoyed this week, please do subscribe to our podcast or ring the bell and share the information that we're doing so that we can keep on doing it and sharing homeopathy with more people. Lovely to talk to you. Speak to you soon.
We hope you enjoyed today's episode and look forward to listening to our next one. Please don't forget to follow our podcast on your chosen channel, and please do leave us a review so we can continue to share homeopathy with as many people as possible. If you do have any questions, please do reach out to us on any of our social platforms mentioned in the show notes. We at Homeopathy 24/7 hope to empower you on your natural health journey.